It's day 5 of the George Zimmerman murder trial down in Sanford, Florida, as lawyers try to prove who was the one calling for help as Zimmerman and Trayvon Martin struggled on the ground before the gun went off and killed Martin. Well, the first witness of the day, John Wood, was cross-examined by defense attorney Mark O'Mara about what he heard that night.
The voice screaming for help, however many times that you heard it, it was just one person's voice?
When I heard it outside,
yes.
I believe it was just one person's voice, yes.
And you now believe that that was George Zimmerman's voice, correct?
I never said that.
Do you
I said
believe
it could have been his, but I was not 100% sure.
I'm not asking for 100% certainty. I'm asking you to use your common sense and to tell us if you think that that was George Zimmerman's voice screaming for help, the person on the bottom.
That's just my opinion.
Well, prosecutor Bernie De La Rianda then came back to try to refute Wood's testimony.
You heard the word help.
Mm-hmm.
You believe it was the person on the bottom. Is that correct?
I believe
You're not 100% sure, but you believe just because of you believe that the person on the bottom would be the one yelling for help.
Correct.
You can't say that the person on the top was yelling for help, but his voice would have gone into the ground and you would not have been able to hear that. You can't say he wasn't yelling for help.
Well, that would have sounded muffled, I would think.
But did you hear that?
I didn't hear a muffled help. No.
Okay.
Everybody who I know that watched today said this was powerful testimony, not so great for the prosecution because the key is going to be who was struggling and the positions of where they were, Eric.
Again, awesome to watch. I'm trying to figure out now, after yesterday, I had an opinion one way. Now I'm going back the other way a little bit. You know, there's some pictures that they show. I mean, some of the pictures are really, really graphic. And the pictures today they were showing were Zimmerman's head, you know, it was bleeding from the back. They're showing him bleeding from the front. And I guess the prosecution's case has to say that that Trayvon Martin was innocent and had no aggressiveness whatsoever. Am I getting it right so far?
Yeah, whether or not George Zimmerman had a right to self-defense. So if you can show acts of aggression
so
or
like
positioning.
how did he get a bloody skull in the back, a bloody mouth and nose in the front if there was no Trayvon Martin aggressiveness, is my point.
And if he wasn't positioned on the bottom. Dana, you're looking at me.
Oh, because I'm learning from you. I was just thinking, though, isn't it possible that they were both calling for help in this situation? I mean, there's no eyewitness that we know of, so they're going off of a phone call, a 911 report, and trying to figure out who was yelling for help. I would imagine that in a situation like that where you have a struggle, that maybe both people were actually calling for help and needed help.
Well, you're right. Probably there was that going back and forth. And guess what? If George Zimmerman had died that day, say perhaps, you know, Trayvon, if he was on top of him and he was beating him, and George Zimmerman passed away due to a head injury, would you be prosecuting Trayvon Martin? Or would you say Trayvon had a right to defend himself if he got up and took the stand and said, I was afraid, I saw this guy following me, we ran into each other again, I was fighting him, I was trying to be able to get away, etc., then people would say, okay, that sounds like to me justifiable self-defense.
Well, but you know, the thing about this is that it raises questions about, nobody seems to have a clear idea of what went on. So that means reasonable doubt is probably in favor of Zimmerman, correct? Because you've got this...
Selected as a juror for the defense, Bob Beckel.
There you go. No, seriously, I mean, nothing seems to be clear here. The only thing I get back to is this guy did chase this guy. He was acting like a cop, and he had a gun, and he went after him. And I think they ought to get the prosecution on that side. Now, maybe because you're allowed to carry guns, it doesn't matter. But I'm telling you, the idea of a community watch person acting like a cop carrying a gun around is a disaster waiting to happen.
But he has a right to be able to carry that gun in the state of Florida, whether he's Joe Schmo down the street or he's a guy who's enlisted to help out his community. Greg?
Yeah, to pick up on what Bob says about how, you know, you don't have a clear idea of what's going on. Well, there was one group that did have a clear idea of what was going on, and that was the media. And the media right now is on trial for those first 3 to 4 months after this crime occurred, of all the race-based content that they ran without facts but emotion, because it created ratings. And on every hour on CNN, nonstop, all they did was they fomented just a race trial, and it was fueled by nothing. Fueled not by facts, but by emotion. So in a weird way, when I'm watching this, I'm thinking back and I go, wow, the media should pay for a lot of the crap they put out there. And also, just you know, on the outside of this court case, you know, there are articles now saying that if there's a not guilty plea, there will be riots in different cities. So in a way, our justice system is being influenced by implications of criminal action outside the courtroom, which is almost the same as witness tampering. And I called it before yesterday, I call it civil extortion. This is what worries me, where judgments are influenced by things that have nothing to do with the case. The last thing I want to say is, whenever I watch this stuff, I get so nervous because I never want to be, you know, I never want to be on trial or be interviewed by a lawyer because I would be a mess, and I always feel really get all the butterflies and stuff when I'm watching.
Kind of like when I ask you questions every day.
I was deposed once, and that was horrible.
Yeah, and a deposition as opposed to a high-profile on-TV murder trial like this, man, it's intense. Can I just point something out? Daryl Parks, attorney for Martin family, on race yesterday. We want to make it very clear that race is not a part of this process. Anyone who tries to inject race into it is wrong. Let's be clear about the family does not want race as a part of the process. Very good news. So once you remove race from this and you start looking at objectively at the facts and what they're bringing to the courtroom, remember, George Zimmerman has to be proven guilty beyond any doubt. There can't be any doubt he's guilty. And you're hearing things that are springing up. If you remove race, take race out of it, and you go, well, gee, what did happen?
We can take it out. You know, we could take race out of it, but the media can't. I mean, the rest of the media can't.
Can the jurors? Can the jurors is a big question.
Race into it, but that's why I was asking the question. The situation will reverse and say, wipe the color out of it, wipe race out of it. Would Trayvon Martin have been charged and treated the same way? You know, that based on the facts, whether or not you have justifiable self-defense, a reasonable belief that your life is in danger, and you have that right to protect yourself.
I think you would have the same media and TV circus that's going on with the trial now if the roles were reversed, maybe even more so.
This has never been a white-black thing. I mean, Zimmerman is not white. I mean, so, you know, he's Hispanic, and he's maybe...
Well, he's Latin.
White, okay.
A lot of people made it. It's somebody at this table.
No, you're right.
Because they heard the name Zimmerman.
Did I make it? I did? Yeah. Okay, well, then I apologize.
Let's clear something up. You and I had a bet, probably the second month we were on air, about... whites being a minority in California, and so but
under
Hispanic
50%.
is an ethnicity. It's not a race, according to.
Do we want to revisit that?
No, but when you say it's not a white-black thing, it kind of is a white-black thing.
I'm trying to think about what Greg said. Did I inject race into it right away? I think I probably did.
But Bob, you were. I mean, if that was the case, you weren't the only one. And also, I think there was justifiable criticism of the government in Florida and the prosecution in waiting so long to charge, and so then the media put additional pressure on in order to get something done, because whether in self-defense or not, there is unfortunately a teenager who died.
Right.
So I think that was what happened initially. The pressure came from